Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the microphone last year's recipient of our Legacy Award, Senator Terry Considine.
Thank you, Bob. You were once my colleague long ago. You're my hero today and my friend forever. And thank you, Shari. You put the leader in the leadership program of the Rockies. You're the keeper of the sacred fire of our steadfast commitment to liberty. You stand watch against the temptations of easy popularity and wishful thinking. And thank you too, ladies and gentlemen, my friends gathered here tonight and this weekend to learn more about, to savor, and to rededicate ourselves to the cause of liberty. Betsy and I feel privileged to be with you. My task tonight is a happy one. My text: let us now sing the praises of famous men, our ancestors in their generations. Or more specifically, the praises of one man, William Lester Armstrong, Jr. More often, just plain Bill. The most famous, the most enduring, the most influential Colorado political leader of the past half-century. The simple recital is impressive. A popular vote-getter serving in office for 30 years, from state representative to state senator, from congressman to United States senator. A brilliant entrepreneur in radio, television, newspapers, real estate, mortgage finance, and technology. A sought-after director for numerous businesses and nonprofit institutions. And closer to his heart, a devoted son, brother to his sister Danny, father to Annie and our own Will, grandfather, and always a loving husband to dear Ellen, to whom he's been married for 50 golden years. Whence comes his influence? After all, he's not held office for more than 20 years. But even so, in our state, Republicans running for office seek his endorsement. Republicans, when in office, measure their actions against his good opinion. And conservative thought leaders from across our nation flock to his university to call on him and to participate in his programs. Here are some reasons why. While Bill is fond of quoting the journalist Walter Lippmann, that leaders are the custodians of a nation's ideals, of the beliefs it cherishes, of its permanent hopes, of the faith which makes a nation out of a mere aggregation of individuals, the fact is, Bill has been far more than a custodian. He has been the inspired example, one who lived our values when it was easy and when it was not. Respectful to all, but unswerving in his convictions. Bill does not compromise principle. He lives by the words of George Washington. If to please the people, we offer what we ourselves disapprove, how can we afterwards defend our work? Let us raise a standard to which the wise and honest can repair. The event is in the hands of God. And second, Bill is a warrior. Like the Napoleonic general, Bill is always ready to march to the sound of the guns. It is the general case in political life that when one is in hot water, friends are scarce. President Truman famously offered, if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. There are many political friends who are with you, provided there's no cost to them. Not so with Bill. Beleaguered colleagues and underachieving candidates have all received Bill's call. Things are looking tough. What more can I do? And Bill is not consumed by selfish pride or ambition. He knows in the word of the Savior he loves that whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. So why should we care, as leaders for the future, what matters the past? Here's why. In Bill's example of conviction, engagement, and servant leadership, there is a lesson as to what makes the great leaders in and out of government that our state and country sorely need. If you can learn this from Bill, you'll be better able to answer the call in your own life, "Here I am, send me." And while Bill deserves grateful recognition for what he has done, he also deserves our prayers and encouragement and support for what he continues to do, building Colorado Christian University and its Centennial Institute, hosting the Western Conservative Summit, participating as a citizen even now by his legal challenge to the monstrosity that is Obamacare. Yeah. So like you and me, Bill is optimistic about the American experiment. And like us, he's deeply concerned by the present challenges. He knows we face the risk, as Paul Ryan noted, that we settle for a dull, adventureless journey from one entitlement to the next, a government-planned life, a country where everything is free, but us. He knows we face the deep immorality of a society where rights come from the government and not from God. He knows we face what in the end is fantasy, where what we want becomes a right, not bounded by what we produce. He knows we face the arrogance of self-professed experts who find our Constitution a straitjacket, who do not hesitate in their attempts to remake human nature, including the family. In these circumstances, Bill has a lot to offer us. First, after a tough election, and the re-election of Barack Obama was a very bitter pill, it pays to have Bill's long view, to realize that the Goldwater and Watergate defeats led to the triumph of the Reagan Revolution. From the ashes of 2012, the great change is possible if we stay the course and keep the faith. Second, it's sometimes easy to think that public office is what matters. Bill shows clearly the private citizen has a comparable opportunity to advance our cause. And third, in politics as in life, relationships matter. When our victories have been won, our losses absorbed, what we remember is our commitment to our beloved country and our love for those who labored and risked and fought alongside us. In this room, we Colorado conservatives are a family, a clan, a tribe, joined together by common beliefs and shared struggles, and most often by a common patriarch, our chieftain, Bill Armstrong. Most conservatives in our state, and in other states too, trace their political ancestry to tonight's honoree. So now as ever, we need Bill's example, his courage, his servant leadership. We need him to raise again that standard to which we all can repair. We need him to rally us from our post-election doldrums. We need him to call to battle, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. We need him to sound again the trumpet that shall never call retreat. So please now join Betsy and me in welcoming one whose presence honors us far more than we can him, our prize winner, our leader, our friend, Bill Armstrong.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so very much. I haven't forgotten what my friend Al Simpson said, that compliments like that are like perfume, intended to be sniffed, but never swallowed. But I'll tell you one thing, if I had any idea that you all were going to say so many nice things about me tonight, I would have come better prepared. I would have brought business reply envelopes. On July 4th, 1939, a baseball legend, the Iron Horse, the great Lou Gehrig, stood at home plate in Yankee Stadium, and he told 61,808 fans assembled there, "I consider myself to be the luckiest man on earth." and being here tonight with Ellen and Will and Christy and Elizabeth and Catherine and my colleagues from Colorado Christian University, and with my comrades in arms in the struggle for human freedom, men and women for whom I have such great affection, great admiration, with whom I have been in battle so often in the past, usually winning but not always. Well, it is just an experience beyond my ability to express. It is a great honor to receive the award from Leadership Program of the Rockies. I've been a fan of LPR for a long time. It is a great enterprise. My only regret is that there isn't LPR in every state, in every metropolitan area, in every village and hamlet. We need a powerful, influential leadership program for America. And of course, I've been a fan, Ellen and I have been fans of Shari's for even longer than we have of LPR. I mean, she's like another daughter to us. She is a woman of talent and grace and perspicacity and grit. You may have heard, and I believe it to be true, that there are people in the world who make things happen. And then there's people in the world who watch things happen. And then there are people in the world who, after it's over, say, well, what happened? Shari Williams is one who makes things happen. God bless you for what you've made happen through the Leadership Program of the Rockies. You all know, of course, that I have great admiration for men of superior intellect, especially those of towering intellect, and those who combine great intellect with courage, determination, fortitude, enterprise, men to whom God has given great gifts and then who use it in a mighty way for the cause of the kingdom and human freedom. And I don't know of anybody of his generation who so admirably demonstrates these qualities of heart and mind as does my dear friend Terry Considine. And to receive this award from Terry's hand means more than I can say. I wish that Terry had been President of the United States. He would have been great. Actually, I would say that no matter who was in the White House. Against the field, I wish Terry had been president. With respect to our current president, I'd be glad if Daffy Duck were president of the United States. Terry, thank you for your kindness. May God forgive you for your shameless exaggerations. At the dawn of our republic, at the pre-dawn of America, men and women like us were called by many names. They were called rebels. Some were called revolutionaries. They were called American Whigs, but it was a British parliamentarian who coined the phrase that stuck. He said, "Sons of Liberty." Now, at the time, the great brewmaster, Sam Adams, was leading a group of artisans and craftsmen, businessmen, professionals, and others who were chafing under the restrictions of regulation and taxes. And they called themselves, here's a catchy name, the Boston Caucus. But it was the name Sons of Liberty that stuck, and soon Sam Adams and others all over the colonies were calling themselves by that name, Sons of Liberty, Daughters of Liberty. And their rallying cry was, taxation without representation is tyranny. Of course, we have subsequently discovered that taxation with representation is not all that great either. And in fact, we have learned, much to our regret, that Chief Justice John Marshall, writing in McCulloch versus Maryland, was absolutely right. The power to tax is the power to destroy. And that the greatest of all Americans, President George Washington, was not off the mark when he reported that government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. And like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. We would do well to recall the warning of Thomas Jefferson. The government which governs least governs best. Even President Woodrow Wilson, with whom I would personally have a great many differences of opinion, expressed this thought, and he was right. The history of human freedom is the limitation of government. My hero, Barry Goldwater, put it even more graphically. I sat behind Barry Goldwater in the United States Senate for several years, and then when he retired, I moved forward and took his seat and sat in the Goldwater seat of the Senate until the end of my time in Washington, D.C. Barry Goldwater was blunt. He said, "The government that's big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take everything you've got." But characteristically, yes, that's right. But characteristically, it was the Gipper who put it best. President Reagan, long before he was president actually, pointed out, he said, "Well, I'm just glad I'm not getting all the government I'm paying for." Alas, we have now elected to be our rulers men and women in the White House and in Congress who are not only giving us all the government that we've paid in taxes to pay for, but for every dollar of taxes that we have paid, they are giving us the full measure of job-killing regulations, regimentation, vitality-sapping supervision of our economy and our lives. And then when they have done that, when they've given us a full dollar's worth for everything we've paid in, they borrow another 80 cents to enact even more of these counterproductive regulations, so that there would be no human activity that is not either regulated or required or prohibited or circumscribed or regimented or licensed. We're not only getting all the government we're paying for, we're getting the government that is going to be paid for by our children and grandchildren. And so it falls to us, the sons and daughters of liberty, the leadership program of the Rockies, to remind our fellow citizens of what America is really all about. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that governments are instituted among men to protect these liberties and derive their just powers as they do so. This understanding is what makes us different from the crowd that temporarily has the upper hand in Washington, D.C. We believe our rights come from God, not from the government, not from the Republicans, not from the Democrats, not from Barack Obama, but from our Creator, and they are unalienable rights. They are not bargaining chips or trading stock. We know that health care in America will be better, fairer, and cheaper if individual families are permitted to make their own health care decisions in consultation with their physicians and other health care professionals, rather than having them dictated to us by a bunch of bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. Now, the government and the chattering class, present company accepted, Mr. Stossel, tries to pretend that these are very complex issues. These are very complex matters. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is not rocket science, friends. Bailing out big banks, it's a terrible idea. We never should have done it. We shouldn't have started. We should stop it immediately. If these banks or other companies are too big to fail, well, and as far as I'm concerned, they're just too big. Social Security, yes, it's in terrible trouble. Social Security is broke. The problem is severe, but not complicated. As a matter of fact, there were a lot of us who knew what to do about it as long as 35 years ago, when some in Congress proposed that we increase the retirement age by 1 month each year for the next 36 years. And if we had done that then, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in now, and in fact, we'd be positioned now to where we could take the next step to means test Social Security and cut the payroll tax. And as for the President's plan to help those living below the poverty line by increasing the minimum wage, that is one of the 4 or 5 dumbest ideas that's ever come down the pike. 60%, my dear friends, 60% of people who live below the poverty line do not have a job. They do not need a pay raise. They need a job. A job. And if there is one proven job killer in America today, it's increasing the minimum wage. The official unemployment rate, 7.9%, the real rate, about 14.5%. 10 million Americans so discouraged they quit looking for work. And who's responsible? I'm going to tell you. It's the government. It is the government. It's not Wall Street. It is not businessmen and women. It isn't organized labor, and I'm not saying that these entities are pure and full of virtue. I'm saying that nobody in the world had the power to create the economic train wreck we've experienced except the government, the President, the Secretary of Treasury, the Congress, and the Federal Reserve. I'm going to close with the Federal Reserve. Is anybody here from the Federal Reserve tonight? Too bad. I was going to suggest you go back to Chairman Bernanke and say, Ben, you ought to emulate the former mayor of New York City, Ed Koch. You ought to ask people, how am I doing? Well, they're doing terrible. The Federal Reserve has almost wrecked the nation's economy and is making matters worse every single day. Nearly 100 years ago, the Federal Reserve was created with the goal of, first, stabilizing the currency, second, smoothing out the economy so we didn't have these drastic ups and downs, and later was added the responsibility to ensure fair employment. Well, we all know how the employment thing worked out. We all know that since the Federal Reserve was created, we've had 11 recessions and one 10-year, decade-long depression. And as for the value of our currency, today it costs $1 to buy what 4 cents would have bought on the date the United States Federal Reserve was created. Will Rogers said, you remember Will Rogers, the great cowboy philosopher, he said, stupidity got us into this mess. Why can't we count on stupidity to get us out of it? Which is basically the Obama plan. I mean, the Federal Reserve and the Congress passed all these regulations, spent us into oblivion, regulated everything that moved, and so when things went wrong, what's their solution? Their solution, of course, is to give more power to the very group of people who caused the problem in the first place. That's the orthodoxy in Washington. So I just want to say it's up to LPR and our like-minded citizens, as Terry said, to raise the standard to which the wise and honest may repair. And I believe if we do that, with all my heart, I'm convinced that if we do that, our fellow citizens will rally to the cause. And once again, free men, free women, and free markets will make this the greatest, most prosperous, and freest nation that the world has ever seen. May I just close then as I began, thanking LPR, thanking Shari, thanking Terry, thanking all of you, and then with the blessing that God taught to Moses and said, Moses, you teach this to Aaron, and Aaron to his sons and through all the generations. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance unto you and give you peace. God bless us all. God bless LPR, and God bless America. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.